Hello, welcome to the OK Football Show Opposition Preview with me, Philip Macbeth Seath. Today we'll be previewing our game on Saturday in the early kickoff against Coventry City. Luton Town will be heading to the game off the back of a 2-1 loss against Sunderland. Unfortunately, the table toppers managed to show their quality in the attacking thirds to score 2 goals against us. Mundell hit a wonderful strike after we managed to get it back on level terms. One thing I'm proud of is that I said that I felt it in my bones that Elijah Adebayo would get off the mark, and he has done so. I felt like Luton in the first half in particular were absolutely brilliant. I think that we were camped in the Sunderland half. I think that perhaps we didn't put too much pressure on the actual goal, but in terms of possession and in terms of the way that we played, I thought it was very promising. Unfortunately, when we conceded, it was a lot more difficult. And despite getting back on level terms, we decided to put a lot of strikers on. Cauley Woodrow came on. Joe Taylor got a rare appearance, even though it was very late. And we ended up playing a lot of long balls. But ultimately, I don't mind that. We played a lot to our strengths in that game. And we'll get a lot of abuse for it because we lost. But the reality of it is that Luton played the way that we know that they can play. We played to our strengths, and ultimately, in the first part of the season, the first 7 or 8 games, we've been having a bit of a whinge about the fact that we've been playing pretty football and not really getting anywhere. The reality of it is that after that win against Watford at the weekend, we played in a very similar fashion with a very similar starting 11, and we actually looked quite good. So I think it's one of those ones where, despite the loss, we take the positives from it and move on. Coventry City, they're in the mire. They're a little bit like us. It's a really funny one. A lot of us decided that Coventry were going to be up in the playoffs this year. They may very well push on. They've done it before. Let's not forget that. But they're really finding things tough at the moment, and Mark Robins is under a certain amount of pressure, just like Rob Edwards was. And if you think about the fact that we were in the playoff final only about 18 months ago, then you would think that we're living in an entirely different universe. But today I've got Josh from the All Things Sky Blue podcast. He's joining me a little bit later on, and he will be discussing the game with us, discussing what's going wrong this season so far and what his hopes and ambitions are for the game at the weekend. So enjoy taking a listen, and here's what Josh had to say. So everyone, as promised, here's Josh from the All Things Sky Blue podcast. Thank you for joining me this evening, Josh. I know you've had a few problems getting on, but top man for persevering. Josh, before we get started, I'd just like it for you to share your socials and share the All Things Sky Blue socials so that people can give you a bit of a follow, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. So across social media, X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, if you search in All Things Sky Blue, you'll find us on there. If you do want to find our podcasts, they're on Apple, Spotify, Anchor, Audible, all those major podcast platforms. If you do want to interact with us live as well, we do live YouTube shows, such as In My Opinion with my co-host Stuart, where you send in your questions related to Cov or football. He'll answer them live. And we do a Twitter space or X space, I guess, on a Sunday from 9 p.m, where if you're a Cov fan or, again, a wider football fan, you want to come on, maybe as an opposition fan, ask questions, interact. It is a live show, so do get sort of getting your comments in, and we'll talk about football.
Lovely. Cheers, Josh. Thank you for that. And like I say, hopefully you get a few more followers from our end. So Coventry obviously host Luton in the early kickoff on Saturday, and they're off the back of a 1-1 draw at QPR. You went ahead, but were pegged back away from home against QPR, and you've had a tough week because you've had a couple of away games as well. And Preston at home are very good. So it sounds awful to say it, but there's nothing nasty to say about the fact that you lost 1-0 to them. I think that they've turned over a lot of decent teams so far this season. So you'll be glad to be back at home. Are you looking forward to playing us, or is it how's the sort of general mood at the moment?
I think, as the kids would say, Phil, we're down bad. We've had a few performances recently since international break, like you mentioned, Preston away. Really should have come away with a point at least. We had a last-minute header from Bobby Thomas that probably should have gone in. A fantastic save from Woodman in goal for Preston. And then Tuesday night against QPR, we just weren't at it. We went 1-0 up inside 5 minutes from Had You Right. And we just sat back, and QPR were the better team for the next 80, 85 minutes. And it just summarises our season, really, because I, for one, came into the season not expecting, but predicting top 2. You know, we have a really good squad on paper, but it's just not happened for us. There's been a lot of change off the pitch, a lot of coaches coming in. We've replaced our assistant manager, AD Vivash, with 4 coaches, if you like. And I never thought I'd say this based on last season, but Mark Robins is under massive pressure at the minute. And I think that if we don't get a win on Saturday against you guys, I think we could be in trouble.
Do you think that is that him being in trouble personally? Do you reckon that his job is at risk, or is that as a general thing for Coventry City?
I think his job's at risk massively.
Right.
It's not just his fault because, like I say, there's been wholesale changes. We've had a lot of players go. We've had the likes of Callum O'Hare go, Casey Palmer go, who are massive influences in the dressing room. Like I say, all these coaching staff coming in. Our owner, Doug King, came in not long before we played you guys in the playoff final. And he's now making changes behind the scenes that don't seem to be benefiting us. And if you imagine Mark Robins had this great team around him beforehand, that team has been taken away, essentially. And he's got a whole different backroom staff now. And the football that we're playing at the minute just isn't the football that we're used to in the Robins. We're not high pressing anymore. We're not on the front foot anymore. Like I say, Tuesday night against QPR was a prime example. We go 1 goal up, played a brilliant first 5-10 minutes, then sat back and just didn't look like we just looked lost, which is a major concern. So in answer to your question, Phil, I think, yeah, he is under pressure, but the players have got to take responsibility too. It's not just down to the manager, but anyone that knows football will know that the blame has to go to the manager at some point.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because we spoke off air just briefly before this, and we were saying about the sort of parallels between the clubs in the fact that we obviously shared the pitch in the playoff final, and when you think about Rob Edwards and Mark Robins leading those 2 teams out at that particular time, and then you fast forward 18 months, and they're both under their own elements of pressure. I think if Luton lost against Watford at the weekend, this was, I mean, some of my colleagues at OK Football Show were calling this El Sacchio. We were literally thinking it's either Robins or Edwards that's going to get the sack after this game. And it's like I say, we got that 1 win, and ultimately our form looks a lot better the last couple of games. But it could be quite a sad day for one of our clubs, really. I'll be honest with you. Whenever we go away to Coventry, I always feel like it's got score draw written all over it. So I'm not sure what that would do for the situations at our respective clubs. But it's going to be certainly an interesting one to see what the outcome's going to look like moving forwards. I mean, in terms of Coventry as well, I think it's they're a bit of an enigma this season, because like you said, Josh, you were expecting top 2. You'll obviously have your own sort of viewpoint on that because you're a Coventry fan, but I think from the outside in, myself included, I had you nailed for a playoff place at the very least. Absolutely nailed for it, just because of Robins and the squad that you've accumulated, and it's obviously just not going brilliantly. And one of the players that I wanted to highlight as part of the opposition preview was Hadji Wright. And he's a bit of a jewel of a player, and he's scored a few goals this season. But how's he been? Has he been isolated? Has he been out of form? Give me a bit of an insight, and give some of the Luton fans a bit of an insight as to how things have been going with him, Josh.
Again, this will probably divide fans, because on his day, Hadji Wright is one of the best players in this league. Let's make no mistake about it. He's got that raw pace where you don't know whether he's going to go inside or outside. Either way, he's comfortable on both. He's an international for the USA. There's a lot to like about Hadji Wright. But unfortunately, there is another side to his game that we've seen this season where sometimes, maybe not the word lazy comes to mind, but he can be quite reluctant to track back and do his defensive work. And off that left-hand side, you need to back up your left back. And he doesn't do that enough for a lot of us. But like I say, on his day, he is an absolute world beater. And if we just saw that a little bit more consistently, especially this season, I think there'd be a lot more teams wary of him when we play them. But he just doesn't do enough off the ball, personally, for me anyway.
Okay. I mean, you brought in Thomas Asante as another striker in the summer as well, and how's things been with him? Is he still someone that we need to look out for from Luton Town's perspective? Because I know that he came from West Brom, didn't he? So he's made the move over to yourselves, and how's he started with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know the story, Phil, about the move, but he was going to move to Hull. And we'd not long got George Boateng in, who used to be a player for us before he moved to Villa, but that's by the by.
Yeah.
And we basically hijacked the deal. I think George Boateng sort of got in Brandon's ear because they're from the same nation. And Brandon ended up joining us. And I mean, there's a lot to like about the lads. I mean, just purely from off the field, he talks a good game. He's a good character. He seems to fit into the dressing room well. He's that sort of person you want in the dressing room that just gets things. He's quite easygoing. And then you see him on the pitch, and again, there's a lot to like about the lad. He's energetic, he'll press high, he looks busy. He's that sort of person that wants to be involved constantly. He's not started many games, to be honest with you. And with the likes of Ellis Sims, we've got another newcomer in terms of Norman Bissett. There's a lot of competition up there, but he is that sort of player that I think that if you need to go a bit longer, he can chase balls down and he can have that. He just gives you that outside chance of making something happen, you know?
Yeah. Okay, that's good. So he's, like I say, he's got a moment of magic in him, I guess, is what you're sort of saying, that he can make a bit of a difference. So yeah, all right, and obviously it's one of those ones where, like I say, over the years we've played you a number of times throughout the league, so I'm quite familiar with some of your players, and I think that one that always stands out whenever you speak about Coventry, and there was some strong rumours last year of Luton being linked to Ben Sheaf, and obviously there was a lot of Sky Blues fans that were very much hands off, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean he's fit again, and he plays sort of alongside Ish, I think, Rudoni. How is it significantly better when Sheaf's in the team?
You know what, Phil? If you asked me this last season or the season before, I'd say yes. But this season, I don't know whether it's down to rustiness. He's had a few niggling injuries. It's not been the same Ben Sheaf that we're used to. He's made more wayward passes than we're used to. He doesn't seem as composed. Like I said, that could just be a rustiness thing. It could just come back to him. But it's not the same Ben Sheaf that we're used to. But there's no doubt he's got the ability in there, and he will be a Premier League footballer within the next 2-3 years, whether that be with us or someone else. But this season, it's just not really happened for him, you know.
Yeah. It's like I say, it's an interesting one, isn't it, with him, because his injury record is probably one of those things that's holding him back from getting that move already, I would probably argue. But he's a quality player on his day. I have no doubt about it. So he's definitely one to watch out for. And again, we spoke off air, and you gave me full permission to refer to this guy as MVE, because I do not want to have a go at butchering his name. But MVE, your right wing back, he plays alongside Latibodier, which I have managed to nail. That's the side of your right hand side of your defence, and I think that from a Luton's perspective, a lot of our strength comes from the left hand side. Chong tends to sort of link up quite well with Alfie Doughty over there, so that could be the battle of the day. I think that could be a real toughie. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. But it just for sort of for clarity, like Josh, what sort of formation are you playing this season so far? In most of your games?
Well, we started off the season as a bit of a 4-3-3, flat back 4, 2 sit in, almost a number 10, and then 3 across the top. But as is well documented, things haven't gone well this season. Since we've come back from the international break, we've reverted back to our 3 back that we've not really seen since probably the playoff final season, to be honest, where we've got the likes of Binks, Thomas and Latabodier as our back three, and then Van Avac, or MV as we're calling him, and then Jada Silva as wing backs going forward. So that's been the formation for the last two. We'd like to think as Cov fans we're not going to keep on chopping and changing because, believe it or not, Phil, we're in late October and we still don't know our best team. I don't know if you guys can relate to that, but it just seems a little bit odd to us. And bearing in mind we brought in the likes of Ephraim Mason-Clark, who's an out-and-out winger, playing a three-back with wing-backs. We don't quite know as a fan base where that leaves the likes of him. So, I mean, against you guys, I'm going to assume we're going to go for a back three again. But with things at the minute, we don't really know for sure, which is, I think, the ultimate frustration.
Yeah, I can sympathise with that a lot. I think it's difficult because the formation-wise, we're quite married to a very similar setup. So it's the three centre-backs, it's the two wing-backs, two holders, and then sort of 1 and 2 or 2 and 1, going forwards. And we've been quite stout with that. And in a weird way, we've been sort of asking for a bit more of a simplification of our play, because we know what this league is about, and it's tough, and ultimately you have to battle as well. And I think that's what we're coming to you guys, having realised that actually we've got the physicality and we've got the players to battle, but we might not be able to sort of out football teams. Like you look at the way that Burnley turned us over at the very, very start, and you look at the way that Sheffield United absolutely bossed us. It's been a really, really disappointing start to the season for us as well. So I think it could be an interesting game because we'll probably match up in terms of our formations, and like I say, we'll just have to sort of see how it goes, really. I mean, earlier on I said to you that my prediction was 1-1. How do you see it? It sounds like, I'll be honest with you, Josh, it sounds like you're a little bit downtrodden, and I can understand that from sort of the league position and things like that. But is it a case of this is going to be the one that's going to kickstart your season and be a statement win, or how do you see it? Give me your prediction.
Nah, I'm not confident at all, to be honest, Phil. I think you'll beat us 2-1. There's a lot at the minute that I don't like about our club. Despite what we've come through in the past 6-7 years, League 2 playoff final winners, League 1 champions, one kick away from the Premier League, as you guys know, FA Cup semi-final, we know that, but we've not won an away. I know we're playing at home, but we've not won a game away in the league since March. I think we've won about 3 from our last 19 in the league. Any other manager in this league, they'd be gone, let's face it. But because it's Mark Robins, he's got credit in the bank. So we need the result on Saturday, but I just don't see it coming, unfortunately. So I'm going to have to back you guys 2-1 because I think, like you alluded to, Phil, at the start, it's going to be two managers that are going into the game. They probably both need to win. Maybe slightly less pressure on you guys because you got the win against Watford. We're in dire need of a win. And in front of our own fans, it could... I don't really want to say this, but it could turn toxic for Mark Robins, and for him to have his reputation, slandered almost. It would be sad to see, So I'm going to go 2-1 for you guys, as much as it hurts me to say that.
Oh, well, I appreciate your honesty, Josh, because it's not easy to sort of go against your own team. It's a horrible situation to be in, and I think that we're very much in a similar boat, if not the same one. Like I say, there's only 2 points separating us. Let's be honest. We're both very much in need of 3 points. So I appreciate your honesty, and I also appreciate you coming on. Just for the regular listeners as well, Josh gave me his predictions for the Sluga 6 for the Food Bank Predictor League, and he's gone for Pompey 1-1 draw against Wednesday. He's gone for a 2-0 Leeds win against Bristol City. He has rather wisely backed Blackburn to play Watford and win 1-0. He's gone 3-0 for Sunderland to beat Oxford and 1-0 to Millwall against Swansea. So I'll post those up on the OK Football Show social media platforms. Josh, thank you again so much for joining me. I genuinely appreciate you giving me your time. And like I say, I will look forward to the game on Saturday. And I hope to speak to you again later on in the season with the reverse fixture comes around at Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, of course.
Thank
Can
you,
I just
Josh.
say something, Phil, just quickly before we go?
Of course you can. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just want to say how sickening I was to read about what happened to your man Adebayo. Reports of online racial abuse. I find it absolutely disgusting and disgraceful, and I hope that whoever made those comments is never allowed into a footballer game again. Forget Luton. Don't want to see him at any Cov games anywhere. We had it after we played you guys in the playoff final. It's an absolute disgrace. So if anyone listening here knows Adebayo or sings his name on match day, not just all things Sky Blue, but Cov fans worldwide, we're with you. And we need to kick racism out soon.
Brilliant, Josh. I could not agree with you more, and brilliant to hear it from an opposition fan's perspective as well, because we, as proper Luton fans, are absolutely disgusted by it and stand completely behind Adebayo as well. So, Josh, top man, I really, really appreciate that. And like I say, anyone that's associated with Elijah Adebayo will know that the larger football and fan community knows that that's just absolutely the abhorrent behaviour. So, Josh, we'll leave it on that note, and thank you so much for making that point. Top man, I appreciate that a great deal.
No worries. Thanks, Phil. Top man.
So, Hatters, there you have it. That was Josh Shale from the All Things Sky Blue podcast. I thought that he was unbelievably and refreshingly honest about how things are at Coventry at the minute. I think a lot of people like myself thought that they were going to have an absolutely barnstorming season, and the reality of it is that they're finding things really tough at the minute, and I really appreciate Josh's honesty about that, and I in particular really thank him for the comment that he made at the very, very end there about the abuse that Elijah Adebayo has been suffering over the last 24 hours. It's just absolutely abhorrent, and it's unacceptable, and I'm so proud of Luton Town Football Club for putting out such a strongly worded combative statement. As for the game, those of you that are heading up, be loud, be proud, get behind the boys. The last two performances have been absolutely brilliant. Despite the result against Sunderland, I thought that the fight that we showed was absolutely brilliant. We've got our Luton back a little bit, so let's go get it. Come on, you Atters, let's bring 3 points down the M1.